Welcome back. And moments ago, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor expressed a certain openness to viewing this two-tiered solution to a possible government shutdown that the House Speaker has been proposing. But of course, it has to get through the House before the Senate gets any say in that. And someone who'll get a say on it perhaps as early as tonight or tomorrow is Democratic Congressman from Illinois, Mike Quigley, who joins me now. He's been pushing hard for aid to Ukraine and Israel to be included in these funding bills. So let me just start with this two-tiered CR. We're banning the phrase laddered on this program here. Have you read it yet, and what are your initial thoughts?
First of all, we shouldn't be here. We had a bipartisan bicameral agreement in June, put the top lines into a spending bill.
I remember.
So now we again play a brinksmanship game with the American economy and everything that goes with that. Just recently, Moody's downgraded the U.S. credit rating outlook from stable to negative based on this kind of dysfunction. So we shouldn't be here in the first place. And now we have Hobson's choices that make no sense whatsoever. So is there a preference on which one? They're all degrees of bad, and the unfortunate victims are the American people.
Well, Congressman, if it's this or shutdown, though, I mean, would you vote for this plan if it comes to the floor tomorrow?
Look, if it's this or shutdown, you have to vote not to shut the government down. I just don't want people to think that this is a choice that we should have to be having at this point in time, given the circumstances last June.
Right. So is that the concern? Is part of the concern then, I guess, the idea that you sort of set a precedent here that now we're going to have these levels of shutdown votes every month or two for as long as it takes to pass a year-long government funding, and who knows how long that could take?
We've created two fiscal cliffs. I mean, we just avoided devastating the American economy and maybe worldwide markets in June by raising the debt ceiling. And what we did, and we put off because Speaker McCarthy, I think in an effort to save his gavel, went to appease, again, the extreme far right of the Republican Party. This isn't the tail wagging the dog. It's the tip of the dog's tail wagging the body politic. And I suspect that Speaker Johnson thinks he can play the same game. This is a divided government, and the Republicans kick speakers out when they compromise. It is the nature of what gets done in this government. So if Speaker Johnson actually gets to a final bill where we fund the government for a full year, he's probably going to lose his gavel. So the decision is he willing to do that now or put it off till later? It is inevitable.
Well, I guess you could argue that in a body where governing only happens when there's a crisis or a cliff, what you need are more crises to get more governing. But I know that's not a road anybody really wants to go down. I'm curious, the lack of aid in here for Israel or Ukraine. I don't know if you heard my interview with Tim Burchett, but he made the argument that the House has passed Israel aid, whether you like the way they did it or not, notwithstanding. But how worried are you that these foreign aid elements that the White House has asked for, that you've advocated for, aren't in here and might not ever see the light of day if they're not tied to something like a government funding bill?
Well, the first risk I mentioned was to the American economy. I think the second risk here is the world is watching us, our allies and our adversaries, and they're saying they simply can't govern. And I think that really tests our will. It makes them start to question if we'll be there when it matters. I was recently in Ukraine, and while they're extraordinarily supportive and appreciative of what we've done to help them, they're starting to look at us like, are you going to be there? Fiona Hill wrote a couple of years ago about how this dysfunction, this extraordinary polarization, is a national security risk. I think we're starting to see that play out. We have to get this done. It makes no sense other than playing to a political extremist group not to put this all together and not wait to the last second to do it. Are we going to ask the Ukrainians and the Israelis to start rationing what they do in an extraordinarily important, pivotal point in their conflicts? It's dangerous to them. It's dangerous to our credibility.
I was surprised recently to read even Mitch McConnell, who's been as vocal of an advocate for Ukraine aid as anybody out there, and I think you'd probably agree with that statement, has kind of backed off, saying that, you know, it's not going to be him who gets this over the finish line. How does this happen? Does the president need to do more? Do other Republicans need to lean on Mike Johnson more? Like, how does this get done? Because this issue seems almost unbreakably stuck from where I sit.
Well, it can get done. I think there's very real concerns here that this isn't our father's Republican Party, right? What was the Reagan doctrine? That we would support our allies against Russian aggression as strong as we have to, as long as we have to. When there was a standalone vote to support Ukraine a couple of weeks ago, it lost in the Republican caucus, 117 to 101. The Reagan doctrine of all things is dead in the Republican Party. So Democrats voted unanimously. If a bill supporting Ukraine and Israel came to the floor, it would pass 3-1 in the House. But it's just a question of the political will and leadership to put it there.